Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, today I want to talk about the Revolutionary's Crow, and combine it with other things to speculate first what this crow is, and how its powers may work. But before we get into it, I want to give a huge thanks to Nekomamushi of One Piece Bay forums for inspiring this idea. Essentially, he sent me a theory, which got me thinking about the general subject, and ultimately make this video. But to start at the beginning, if you guys do not remember, at the end of the Dressrosa arc, we see Sabo leaving Dressrosa, heading towards Baltigo, riding crows. And in fact, the lead crow, the one that is leading the way, can talk. It is one of the most interesting unresolved mysteries in One Piece currently. And so just to get this out of the way, just so that I don't need to talk about this again in the future of this video, the screen cap that I have of this scene was translated by Manga Stream. This translation is not correct. It says that Sabo said, "Can you bring these out whenever you want?" And the crow says, "Yes, whenever." Sabo then says, "Shall we hurry then?" But the correct translation is more along the lines of, "Can we leave?" And the crow says, "Yes, we're good to go." And so there's lots of ways in which people have tried to speculate things about this crow. But most of the speculations are similar because straight up we just do not know that much. However, this theory will be different. But here's what we know, guys. It seems to be a crow. It seems to have control over or can command other birds. And it can talk. It really does seem as though this crow is a vital member of the Revolutionary Army, because it seems as though it issues commands to other birds, other crows, to deliver news and other related information documents to the scattered Revolutionary Army. We can see this during Robin's story during the time skip. And so guys, probably the most popular theory for the identity or the explanation of the crow is that it is a zone-type devil fruit user. That would immediately explain why it can talk. This person can transform into a crow, or whatever kind of bird. To be honest with you, we're going to call him a crow, but the birds are not clearly shown to us. They are always in silhouette form, always in shadow form, so it could be any kind of bird, but we're just going to call it a crow. The problem with this theory is that zone-type devil fruit users don't typically have the ability to communicate with other animals. They can merely transform into an animal. The only way that this makes sense for myself and a lot of people is if this is some facet of a zone-type devil fruit user's awakening. Or this is just a power this person inherently has while being able to transform into a bird himself. And to add on to this theory a little bit, we are shown a character in a mass page where it shows just a bunch of different characters from various different factions. And in the revolutionary section of this page, you can see a character that we do not recognize, so we presume that this is a new unintroduced character. And a lot of people think that this is the crow. But let's throw another idea into the arena. First off, it's important to know, guys, that animals in One Piece are intelligent. Now, it is not common for animals to speak, but they often can understand speech. A good example of this is Laboon or Hattori, Lucci's pigeon. Gonbei, who is a rabbit. Or another good example would be Mr. 13 and Miss Friday from Baroqueworks, the Unluckies. The point is that while animals cannot always speak, they are much more intelligent than they are in the real world. And this gets us to the best example of an intelligent animal. We are talking about Papagou. Just as a forewarning, guys, this is an incredibly difficult name for me to pronounce, so I'm just going to call him the Starfish from now on, and I mean no disrespect. But yeah, the Starfish who travels with Kami and Hachan and was important-ish in the Fishman Island arc. But yeah, the Starfish is not a mermaid, is not a merman or a fishman. It is a starfish, an actual creature of the sea who just has the ability to understand and communicate in human languages. And so this is actually explained within the story because people are confused. You're a starfish, yet you are speaking. This is weird. And the starfish basically says that he could speak, the human tongue because he thought that he was human. This stems from a Japanese joke. Human in Japanese is hito, and starfish in Japanese is hitode, and yeah, insert joke. But the point is something like this in the world of One Piece is entirely possible. So when we're talking about a talking bird, Nobody brings this up because this would probably make the crow a less important character and a less important revolutionary in terms of just power ranking, right? But it is entirely possible that this crow, or this bird that speaks, is just what it seems to be, a talking bird, a talking animal. But being whatever kind of bird that he is, he also has the ability to talk to other birds and issue sort of commands. He's like the king of the crows. Now at this point, I know that a lot of people in the comments or who are watching this video are going to be like, bro, you're really gonna anti-hype me like that? And I understand, guys, what it is that you want and why this may not be exactly what you want, but you gotta admit that, at the very least, this idea would be very One Piece-like. But let's make it a little bit more exciting. One of the important powers that this crow has is to command other crows or other birds. This doesn't really work for a zone-type fruit user unless zone-type fruit users have other powers that we do not know about. But we have seen powers like this before. Commanding animals is not unusual in One Piece, and in fact we have a member of the crew who has this same ability. I am talking about Jinbei. Also, you could probably include Chopper as well to some extent, but Jinbei is able to, in some ways, command sea creatures. And he is able to communicate with them over long distances. And in fact, in a conversation that Jinbei has with Crocodile, Crocodile intimates that this is a power that is commonly associated with mermen. Jinbei being a fishman, it's kind of unusual for him to have the same ability. And so I'm using the term of command rather loosely, because there's really nothing that suggests that these animals have to follow what it is that Jinbei or anybody else who commands them, quote unquote, says. It's basically, the way that I understand it is that they are able to communicate with these animals, and that in some ways these animals are their subordinates. And there's also a lot of intricacies because not every kind of person who can speak to animals can speak to every kind of animal. Chopper is kind of the exception to the rule, but like for instance with Jinbei and with the other mermen, they cannot communicate with sea kings. Yet Poseidon or Shirahoshi can. And I also imagine that they cannot communicate with land creatures such as birds. And it's quite possible that this crow guy cannot communicate with sea creatures and maybe can only communicate with birds. So yeah, we have actual people or humanoids that can communicate with animals. So what kind of person or humanoid could speak to birds? And we have seen an example of this in the recent chapters of One Piece. I am talking, of course, about our friend, Big News Morgans. Big News Morgans, the head of the World Economic Times, who we are led to believe essentially issues orders to the news coup to deliver the news. And while this is not confirmed information, we do know that Morgans has some ability to interact with the news coup, because we saw in chapter 901 that Morgans has these birds carry both him and Stussy in this balloon, or contraption, whatever the hell you want to call it. Morgans in some way can influence these news coup. And I think that this makes a lot of sense because Morgans is clearly a bird-type humanoid. So like Jinbei and the mermen have some ability to control fish, Big News Morgans, being a bird, has some ability to control or command birds. So then how exactly does this crow have the ability to command other crows? It's quite possible that this crow is actually a member of Big News Morgan's clan, or tribe, or race, whatever you want to call it. And so some might say at this point in time that we've seen the crow, and he doesn't seem to appear anything like Big News Morgans. And for me, this isn't really a problem for the theory, because when it comes to fishmen, or mermen, or even minks, these kinds of tribes that are related to different kinds of creatures come in all shapes and sizes and forms. They don't all look the same. For an example, we have the minks. You have minks as large as Inu, Arashi, and Nekomamushi, and minks as small as Bryanfavr. Bryanfavr could pass for an actual monkey if you did not look at his face. And it's also important that Oda does not show us him clearly. They are in silhouette, they are in shadow, which leaves a lot of room for interpretation with what he looks like. For all we know, this crow would stand on his feet just the same as Big News Morgans. Big News Morgans also does not have hands, he has wings, just like this guy does. Big News Morgans happens to be a flightless bird type, while this one is not the same. Again guys, there is a ton of diversity when it comes to these kinds of tribes. But anyway guys, I just wanted to bring these ideas up because I think that they are persuasive and could definitely be the case. I know a lot of people are looking for this character to be the most hype thing ever, but it's quite possible that Oda has different plans for them in the story, as he often does when it comes to character design. I'll go ahead and leave a link to Nekomamushi's original theory in the description. He takes it in a bit of a different direction than I do. He speculates that Big News Morgans is the revolutionary crow, but the more that I ended up thinking about this, the less that I believe it, but you can decide for yourself by reading what he has to say. Anyway guys, as always, let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree and why. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always guys, have a wonderful day.